The Hollow Church, a story by Rợn Radio. Snow was falling heavily when Eric's delivery truck rumbled off the main road and into the woods. What was supposed to be a quick supply run to a remote warehouse had turned into a frustrating detour. The GPS had glitched hours ago, rerouting him through some forgotten road winding into the forested hills of British Columbia. He hadn't seen another car in over an hour. Just trees, snow, and silence. Then, with a sudden sputter and a long mechanical sigh, the truck died. Eric cursed, slamming his fist against the steering wheel. He tried the ignition again. Nothing. The dashboard flickered once, then went dark. Stepping out into the freezing wind, he popped the hood and stared blankly at the engine. Nothing seemed obviously wrong, but he wasn't exactly a mechanic. The snow was already piling up around his boots. He was about to give up and retreat into the cab when he spotted it. A wooden sign, half covered in snow, leaning crookedly by the side of the road. It read, "Welcome to Mercy Hill Pop, 213. Eric squinted. Mercy Hill? It wasn't on his map. Yet through the trees, he could just make out the vague shape of buildings, small ones huddled in a shallow valley down the slope. A town, or what was left of one. With no other options, he grabbed his coat, zipped it up tight, and trudged toward it. As he entered the outskirts, he quickly realized something was off. Mercy Hill was abandoned. Windows were shattered, storefronts boarded up or rotting. A gas station leaned like a broken tooth, pumps rusted, sign half fallen. Snow had crept into every crack, blanketing the town in stillness. No people, no lights, no sound but the wind and the occasional rustling, like whispers just beyond his hearing. Then he saw it. At the far end of the street, rising above the rooftops, stood a church. Narrow, Gothic, and black with age. A crooked iron cross perched atop the steeple. The stained glass windows were mostly dark, but one flickered faintly candlelight. Eric hesitated, then approached. The sign out front read, Our Lady of Eternal Grace ESD, 1873. He pushed the door open. It groaned loudly, like an old man roused from sleep. Inside, the air was heavy with dust, cold stone, and something sour rot, maybe. Rows of wooden pews stretched into the darkness, and dozens of candles flickered near the altar, casting strange, dancing shadows on the walls. That's when he heard the voice, a whisper, faint but unmistakable. Forgive me, Father, for I have sinned. Double quotes. It came from the confessional booth. Eric's blood froze. The voice was female, quivering, sorrowful. I didn't mean to. I only wanted to quiet the baby. But she wouldn't stop crying. The water was cold. I thought she'd float. Then silence. Chilling, suffocating silence. Eric backed away, heart pounding. The booth was empty. No one sat inside. No one stood in the pews. He turned and fled the church, slipping on the icy steps, running breathlessly back through the deserted street toward his truck. Still no signal. Still no power. When he glanced back at the church, the candlelight was gone. Darkness had returned. That night, Eric slept in the cab of his truck, wrapped in every spare layer he had. But sleep did not come easily. Every time he closed his eyes, he heard that whisper, that confession. He told himself it was a hallucination, stress, cold, hunger. It had to be. The next morning, desperate for supplies, he returned to the town. He tried the diner empty, the general store stripped bare. Then, reluctantly, he pushed open the church doors once more. The candles had been ray-lit. In a side room near the altar, he found shelves of canned food, bottles of water, even a small generator. Someone had clearly been here recently. But where were they now? He turned to leave and heard the whisper again. This time, it was a man's voice. It started with the fire. We said it was lightning, but we knew better. The Reverend, he made us do it. He said the boy had the devil in him, but he was just a child. Eric approached the confessional booth slowly, chest tight. Again, the voice trailed off. Again, no one was inside. On the interior wall of the booth, scratched into the wood with what looked like fingernails, were 3 words. He still listens. That night, Eric dreamed of fire, screaming, bells, a figure in black robes, standing at the pulpit as flames devoured the walls. And behind him, rows of shadowy figures kneeling in the pews, heads bowed, whispering confessions that echoed into the smoke. Over the following days, Eric tried to leave the town. He took every possible road out, but every turn, every path, every trail led him back to Mercy Hill, or to the church. Each visit to the confessional brought a new voice, a new sin. A man who poisoned his wife and buried her under the floorboards. A schoolteacher who locked her students in the cellar to purify them. A mother who drowned her own children in the baptismal font. Always, at the end of every confession, The same whisper returned. He still listens. Eric couldn't understand why this was happening, why he was here, why he couldn't escape until one night. The whisper changed. He knows you're here, Eric. He froze. The Reverend has been waiting for you. Panic surged. He ran from the church and broke into the old town hall, searching through crumbling files, dusty books, old photographs. That's when he found a newspaper article from 1974. Mass fire destroys town, cause unknown. In the photo, a man in long robes with sunken eyes and a cruel smile. The caption read, Rev. Ezra Blackwood, spiritual leader of Mercy Hill. Beside him, barely visible, a child, being age 5. Eric staggered backward. His full name was Eric Blackwood. He had never met his grandfather. His father never spoke of his family, had abandoned the old homestead decades ago. Now, it all made sense. The pole, the blood, the confession. That night, the church bells rang for the first time in 50 years. The dead returned. He saw them, shadowy figures lining the streets, faces in broken windows, smoke rising from chimneys that hadn't worked in half a century. Inside the church, the pews were filled with outlines grey, translucent, silent. Waiting at the altar stood the Reverend. His skin was charred, his eyes black holes, his mouth stretched into a grin to white, to human. He raised one hand and pointed to the booth. Eric walked forward, trembling. The booths were open for him. He sat down. The Reverend's voice, dry and rasping, whispered, Now, my son, confess. Eric tried to speak, tried to say anything, but his mouth was dry, his thoughts a storm. Then the voices came, hundreds of them, layered over one another, screaming, crying, begging for forgiveness. He clutched his ears, but they were inside his head, inside his chest. 1,000 sins, 1,000 ghosts, and through it all, the Reverend stood, smiling. Then, silence. Days later, a rescue team found Eric's truck on the roadside. The door was open, keys still in the ignition. Footprints led into Mercy Hill, but none came out. No sign of Eric. The town was once again still, except for the church. Its doors now stood open, candles burning bright. The confessional booth was closed. And from within, a voice whispered, Forgive me, Father, for I have sinned. And another voice, calm, steady, and eerily familiar, replied, I'm listening.